Growing up on Gadsden Green, I have so many perspectives, but the perspective that stands out for me was how I was in a community where so much was being poured into me, right? Me and my friends or whatever. And the pouring in actually started with the environment, the housing community project.
Nobody seems to know what we're going through back here. No one seems to have a clue or have a blind eye. So we pretty much stick together.
We created our own level of entertainment. Hopscotch, marbles, run over, let whomever come over, and we have the chain trying to hold people back and whatnot. We spent a lot of time with other youngsters at Gadsden Green, at Treasure Out, looking for toys and novelties.
Charleston, South Carolina, which is the richest city in the state of South Carolina. It is the richest city, and the least of them living this way. These people here are the descendants of enslaved people.
Our story starts in the west side of Charleston, once known as Butcher Town, because of all the butchers and meat businesses here back in the 19th and early 20th centuries. It was a busy working area, full of life and hard work.
After emancipation for Black people in Charleston, it was hopeful yet difficult at the same time, because yes, we had been freed, but the Civil War had brought so much devastation to Charleston that there was, of course, a lot of poverty and starvation, but yet at the same time there was a lot of hope, because right after emancipation, the Black people here had a massive parade in which they celebrated the end of slavery. And right here in Hampton Park as we speak, back in May of 1865, African Americans gathered to celebrate the Union dead who were martyred on their behalf to end slavery. And that was known as the first Memorial Day celebration in the United States, right here in Hampton Park. Now, with all that going on, however, though, there was a lot of resistance by many of the white people at that time. You had what was the South Carolina Constitutional Convention met to pass laws that restricted the movement and freedom of Black people, and these were what were called the Black Codes. And so after you had what was known as radical Reconstruction, where African Americans were granted the right to vote and be citizens, Black people from all over the North would come down here to start businesses as well as establish fraternal organizations and schools and such, so that you began to see miracles that were not possible a few years earlier. There was the Freedmen's Bank here in Charleston on number 55 Broad Street. The first Black lawyer in America, Macon B. Allen, established a law office on number 91 Broad Street, along with two other Black lawyers, William J. Whipper and Robert Brown Elliott. So this is where you're beginning to see a sort of golden age for African Americans with the birth of the Reconstruction era.
The 1930s marked a period of profound economic hardship for the entire United States, the Great Depression. As the nation grappled with unemployment, poverty, and despair, its impact reached every corner of society. Let's delve into how this challenging era unfolded, particularly for Black Americans. In the aftermath of the 1929 stock market crash, the economic foundations of the nation crumbled. Jobs vanished, businesses shuttered, and families faced unprecedented challenges. The Great Depression was an equalizer of suffering, affecting people from all walks of life. For Black Americans, who already faced systemic racism and economic inequality, the Great Depression exacerbated existing hardships. Discrimination in employment and housing was widespread, and many Black families found themselves disproportionately burdened by the economic downturn. Agricultural areas, where a significant number of Black families lived, were particularly hard hit. Crop prices plummeted, leaving sharecroppers and tenant farmers in dire straits. The promise of economic improvement during the Reconstruction era seemed distant as poverty tightened its grip. As jobs disappeared, competition for employment intensified. Black workers often faced discrimination in hiring, and when jobs were available, they were frequently assigned to the lowest paying positions. The unemployment rate soared, affecting Black communities at a disproportionate rate. The New Deal, a series of government programs initiated by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, aimed to provide relief, recovery, and reform.
Well, when it comes to urban renewal, I think it was James Baldwin who said it best that urban renewal often led to Negro removal, would be a best way to describe that, because initially during the 1930s, under the administration of President Franklin Roosevelt, you began to see the rise of housing projects. Now, originally, housing projects included white people and Black people, albeit in segregated housing projects at the time. In North Charleston, you had the John C. Calhoun and Ben Tillman homes that were originally designed for the poor whites who came from the rural areas to work at the Charleston Naval Base. And in downtown Charleston, areas such as around where the Gadsden Green projects are today, the rickety shacks and outhouses were cleared out for project buildings that had indoor plumbing and electricity, which at that time was very novel for a lot of Black people. Now, the downside of urban renewal was that the establishment of such things as the crosstown leading to the then Cooper River Bridge and the Ashley River Bridge, that destroyed a lot of the Black community that was around Ashley Avenue. A lot of those people were forced to relocate, as well as there was a neighborhood named, it was either Grant Hill or King Hill, over by where I-26 is today, where a lot of those buildings were demolished around 1963 in order to make way for Interstate 26. And of course, the same pattern existed throughout the rest of the country, because a lot of these things were done either before the Voting Rights Act of 1965 or shortly after, when African Americans and poor communities in these areas had not yet the political power to go to City Hall and put a stop to these things.
Back on September 29, 1938, Charleston was hit by two terrible tornadoes, tearing through homes and lives. After this, when the government started taking over land for the New Deal, it didn't always think about the people living there, especially in Black neighborhoods. Mayor Maybank in Charleston used this chance to get money from the government, but it meant that many Black families lost their homes and had their communities broken apart. The residents of Gadsden Green wrote a letter to then Mayor Henry W. Lockwood to stop the city's seizure of their homes and land.
Honorable Henry W. Lockwood, Mayor of the City of Charleston, South Carolina. Dear Sir, we, the undecided citizens and freeholders of the area, affected by the proposed low rent cost housing project and the section of Charleston known as Gadsden Green, south of Lyon Street, west of President Street, and north of Beauregard and Alway Street, do most earnestly and honestly protest against this area being used as a slum clearance project for the following reasons. 1. This is not a slum district. 2. About 75% of the people living in the affected area are either buying or own their homes. 3. That a careful survey of all the homes in the affected area and the people living in them are respectable, honest, hard-working people with respectful connection throughout the city of Charleston among both white and colored people. A census of this area will show that more than 50% of the people in this area are mechanics, artisans, and school teachers, and others who have definite ways of supporting themselves. 4. That this is the largest group of colored property owners in any single area in the city of Charleston. If we are forced to give up our homes at this time, it will be the greatest tragedy to befall an unfortunate people. With most of our earning power on the wane, we will not be able to go out and face the world again trying to buy homes with sacrifices and privations that we once suffered. If we give another thought to this situation, there is not another single area in Charleston available to colored people where so large a group can purchase or build homes, and the few places that are available to our group are prohibitive in the purchase price. 5. To go out now and live in rented homes or buy at a higher price than we can sell for would not be fair to our children, nor to us, as it would only leave a flood of mortgages for our children to struggle along with. If you will personally investigate this area, or have an impartial committee do so, you will find the facts as herein stated. We are also writing Dr. Josiah Smith, Chairman of the Authority, concerning this matter. We will then you for any consideration that you give us and anything that you can do about it. Very truly yours, the citizens of the affected area. John A. Harris, Secretary for the Committee.
To make space for this new complex, 74 buildings faced demolition. Among them, 18 were two-story structures and 56 were one-story buildings, paving the way for a new era of community living in Gadsden Green.